Hi, welcome back here. You're listening to Phil Ward here on Hospital Radio. My guest today is I'm joined by Mr. Derek Acorah. Hiya, Derek. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Phil. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Quick questions I wanted to ask you was, how did you discover your gift of mediumship?
Well, it started at a very early age, Phil. I was in my grandmother's house, and I actually saw a gentleman, who seemed to be like physical. I could see his details. I could see the clothes he was wearing, and he actually spoke to me. Yeah. He told me a couple of things, to go downstairs, because I saw him in one of my grandmother's bedrooms, and he told me to go down and tell Mum and tell my grandma that I'd spoken and seen this man. The long story cut short, this was my grandfather, who'd passed over to the world of spirit 2.5 years before I was born. Mm-hmm. He was a seafarer. He got a terrible injury. That he was an engineer on the ships, and he got this terrible injury that caused septicemia. And before they could get into a shore-based hospital, he passed away on the ship.
I was going back to that. In your book, you were saying about you were sent up to get some fish, and the frozen fish had defrosted even before you got back to your grand's house.
Yes.
Can you tell our listeners a bit more about that?
Well, yeah. I don't know whether what you're looking for, in the sense that a frozen fish shouldn't have defrosted in that period of time. I can't really answer basically what phenomena caused that, to be honest with you. What answer do you want from that?
It's when you discovered that you had the gift of healing, and it's because you had the hot hands. That's what it was. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that wasn't really my understanding at that time. It was only later on that it was, pointed out to me. I didn't know, even as a young boy, that my hands were any warmer or hotter than anyone else's. Mm. It was just like a situation, like of the fish, to be carrying from a corner shop, which was only so local to my grand's house.
Barely a 5-minute walk.
Less than that.
Really?
A minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and for this fish to be defrosted. But I suppose, looking back on it, on retrospect, had I been told at that young age that not only was I clairvoyant, or potentially clairvoyant, I was clairaudient, and potentially had the healing gifts. Mm. It was only a little bit later I had it all pointed out. My grand sat me down and explained to me in detail, all these things.
Now, a lot of people don't know that you was playing for Liverpool reserves in the days of Bill Shankly.
Oh, yes.
But you were saying at the time that you were seeing spirit in your dressing room. Oh, yeah. And then that was the football seemed to fall to one side, didn't it?
Well, of course it did. There I am in dressing rooms, playing for the reserves and what have you. And then suddenly you'd see, apart from the players who are getting, changed into the shorts, you'd see spirit people. And I couldn't really, at that time, really share all these things with the fellow players, because, you're talking about footballers who think in one way. And, anything outside football doesn't really interest them. And anything such as a subject of, talking about what footballers would say in the day, spooks. That's right. You don't spook them.
Yeah. How did you end up on TV?
It was nothing to do with me. I was doing actually readings in an office in Liverpool for many years. And before TV came along, what actually happened was Radio Merseyside had two very well-known, famous, still to this day, presenters come DJs called Billy and Wally.
It's Billy, yes, I remember him, yes.
Remember Billy Butler?
Yes.
He's still there today. And Wally. And they'd heard from their listeners on the radio station about this Derek Acorah in Liverpool who was doing readings, and said how much they'd enjoyed it and what they gained from it. So they sent round to me. I was only round the corner, my office, and they said, would you like to appear on one of our shows in the day where we'll put you online and speak to the listeners? Can you do that? And I said, well, I'll try. So I went round this one afternoon, and I spent an hour with them, and it seemed to be successful. So they asked me to continue on every Wednesday. And then I did other things for them on other days, and then all of a sudden, Wally said live on radio, you know what, Derek, he said, I can see something special happen for you. I'm not even a clairvoyant like you or a psychic. He said, but you're going to be on television soon. I said, come on.
He's always got that optimistic outlook.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said, where from? Where from? Anyway, sure enough, it must have been, I wondered whether he had anything to do with this, because it was less than a month. And I'm driving to my work from my home at about 7:30 in the morning to arrive into Liverpool city centre, to open my office, to start my readings at 9 a.m. Prompt. And I'm driving along, and my mobile went, and my wife said to me, Gwen, television, Granada TV have been in touch. The producer of this program, I can't remember what it's called, but said she wants to speak to you, to bring you on the program. So I said, what? So she said, she may phone you when you get into the office. She's got your office number. I said, okay. No sooner gets into the office, and this producer certainly did phone me and said, we'd like you to come along to do one of our live programs. And I said, what do you want me to do? She said, well, like you do on the radio, speak to people, over the air. And, her words, tell them their fortune. And I said, I don't tell fortunes. I open up to the world of spirit, and I tell them messages. Well, we'd like you to do that.
Okay. Because I remember the Granada Breeze program you did about 10 years ago with Becky Want. That's when I first remember seeing you. And then you was on James Wales Talk Sport. And I remember you did a reading for me. You won't remember it, but you did a reading for me over the phone.
Did I?
Yeah. Because I kept telling you I kept seeing a little girl at the end of my bed, and you identified who it was. Yeah. And this little girl, even now, talks to me, and I can hear her in my left ear.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, that's great, Phil. It's great to hear that. Yeah. And I loved it being with James Whale, because he was very open-minded, and he was one of the people in radio, apart from Billy and Wally, that had a sympathetic sort of feeling towards to me. But I always remember this just quickly. Gwen and I travelled to London, and we put ourselves in a hotel in a place called Scratchwood, and we went down to the studios. We sat in the studios, and we were there to do a 3-hour slot with him. From, I think it was 9 till 1 in the morning. And we sat there in the reception, and the producer called Ash, he was a lovely guy.
I remember Ash, the engineer.
Yes, great guy. He said, hi Derek, pleased to meet you. Hi Gwen, pleased to meet you. He'll be out, the boss will be out in a minute off the radio. Anyway, we're waiting, James Whale walks out, the icon he is. And he's walking with a sledder like this, And he went, oh, Derek, oh, Gwen. He said, nice to see you here. Thanks for coming down. He said, by the way, he said, because he was going off to the loo. Right. By the way, he said, you better be on song tonight, son. He said, because if you're not, he said, you'll be ripped apart on my station. And I shook from there to there. And I looked at Gwen and I went, I can't go. And she said, yes, you can. Anyway, we did it. And
it was very flippant. He was very flippant with you. He gave you a bit of a hard time, and then he backed off because he said, okay, if you can get my dad. Yeah. And then he did back off, very quickly, what are the best and worst parts of being a medium?
The best is to see the satisfaction from a person, and this goes from day one. The person's face, like in a scenario like tonight, when people approach and say, thank you so much, it's meant so much to me. You've given closure on this, or whatever way they want to explain it, what they've gained from it. They've gained something quite special from it, because that's what we are, receivers to give, not receivers to take. Okay. The worst from it is the negativity of non-like-minded minds, such as out-and-out negative skepticism, out-and-out criticism, and a cynicism of people who don't quite understand, can't comprehend, can't grasp it. So if they can't grasp something, why should the rest of the world grasp it when they can't? And they become just nasty individually. However, you put the two things together.
I've had this myself, because what I've seen, I've heard, but it's just trying to convince someone else. And
of course. I mean, you'll always, have to fight your corner in anything spiritual work that you do, because we're human, we have ways of thinking, and we can't dominate a person's way of thinking. We shouldn't, it's not our job. But it's difficult in the sense that you see people who decide that a medium, not just Derek Acorah, whoever's working for spirit, is doing some kind of, in certain religious ways, you're doing something terribly wrong.
Okay. Well, Derek Acorah, it's been an absolute pleasure and an honour to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And it's been wonderful to see you again.
Thank you,
and
Philip.
my regards to Sam.
He's listening.
I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been absolutely great to have you on the show. Have a safe journey home.
Thank you.
And take care and good luck for the future.
Bless you. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you.